Hey everybody, it's Councilmember Amanda Edwards, and today we're going to have something a little bit different, Budget 101. And the reason why we're going to have Budget 101 is so that you can understand what we are doing at City Hall to make sure that our city's fiscal affairs are in order. We have a large budget for our city. In fact, we're going to be passing a budget that's almost $5 billion in size. But a couple of things to remember. The city operates with what's called a general fund, which is where a lot of its operational expenses come from and revenues, a lot of the property tax revenues flow into in order to support the general needs of the city. So you have a general fund. That fund is less than half, a little bit over $2 billion. And then the rest comes in the form of enterprise funds. And a lot of times people hear that phrase and they say, what is an enterprise fund? And that basically means that those are self-contained funds where revenue is generated and then also utilized. So think about the airport system. The funds that are generated through the airport system stays within the airport system to be further utilized to help support the airport system. And so what we're embarking upon right now, over the last several weeks, we've had budget workshops. In fact, we've had 25 presentations in all, both in terms of workshops and overviews, in which the City Council got an opportunity to hear from each of the departments what their plans were for cost cutting, as well as for growth and long-term plans in terms of fiscal management. We had an opportunity to ask questions and then also follow up with an online resource we call City Point. And in addition to that, we've had an opportunity to actually review our budget book. The book is a very large one, but it's also partially online. And so we have had an opportunity to go through it, make sure we are looking at scrubbing the numbers, making sure everything is in good order before we decide we will pass our budget. We are actually considering our budget this Wednesday, May the 30th, and hopefully we'll pass the budget, but in doing so, there might be some amendments. I have proffered 4 amendments, and the administration has asked me to pull down some so that they could be formatted in the form of an ordinance rather than budget amendments, but I'll talk a little bit about those. Budget amendments allow city council members in particular to offer some a policy opportunity, meaning we can add to it, see that we allocate funding in a different way. Some of the importance of that relates to really putting your money where your mouth is. And so if you don't provide funding for some of the initiatives that you talk about, you really don't have an opportunity for that initiative to really take off in the way that it needs to. So we will be having some extensive discussions this Wednesday concerning the budget amendments, and in particular mine relate to including opportunities to extend Wi-Fi connectivity to some of our those communities within a digital divide. And so those that don't have access to internet services or Wi-Fi services, we're looking at ways to do that. We're also going to be proffering an amendment that extends our STEER program, really changes the program, which is a state-run program in which those who are challenged in terms of their mobility, also seniors, those and the like, have an opportunity to register with the state, and then the locality helps them with evacuations. Well, here in the city of Houston, that trigger has been mandatory evacuations, and so we're expanding that definition to include other flooding events, chemical spills, things of that nature. And so that will be an opportunity to make sure that we're keeping our community safe. We're also going to be proffering an amendment that relates to job creation and growth for our city. Specifically, we're looking to promote women and minority businesses in a way that Houston is #1 for both women and minority entrepreneurs. We'll be looking at things like the lack of access to capital for those groups and more questions so that we can really start to solve for those issues. And then finally, we'll be proffering an amendment that relates to coming up with a real estate strategy for our city so that we can make sure that our city is safeguarding all all of its assets, not just its cash, but also its assets that are in the form of real estate. So we're asking the critical questions about, could this be utilized for affordable housing? Could this be utilized for a public-private partnership we may be entering into? And other questions that concern good governance and public policy. So it has been my pleasure today to let you in on just a sneak peek on what it means to be in the budget process, and we hope that you stay tuned and for our budget passage on May 30th, hopefully earlier in the day, but if not, it might be a little bit later in the evening, but hopefully we will get it passed. And again, it's a $5 billion budget. We don't take it lightly, and we want to make sure that we're putting cuts into place that make sense for our city and that do not result in reduced services for our residents. And so that's been some of the guiding principles. We are excited about the opportunity to continue to provide services for our residents, and that there hasn't been an extensive amount of layoffs in the process. Thank you very much.